Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. It's the weekend of the Monaco Grand Prix. Major rumours emerging not just on the future of Carlos Sainz, but Williams are now emerging as a front-runner to sign Sainz for next season after the Red Bull and Mercedes rumours have reportedly fallen through. What a fall from grace this might be for Carlos Sainz if he does end up at Williams, but also big rumours at Mercedes. James Allison, their technical director, reportedly requested to hand in his notice to quit the team after failing to turn around their fortunes. The board though rejected his resignation, but if it was to come sooner rather than later, does this leave Mercedes again in an absolutely dire position? Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Apologies for no video yesterday. I was travelling here to Indianapolis for the Indy 500 this weekend. It may have thunderstorms this weekend, so we'll see what happens on Sunday. But look, Monaco's also going to go this weekend as well on the Formula 1 side, and here is the Red Bull high downforce new spec rear wing. Often teams will bring spec rear wings for Monaco just because it's ridiculously high downforce compared to everywhere else. This is the Ferrari version as well. I'm not sure it would even be possible to create a rear wing that's going to generate more downforce than this. We look at the scoop on that and the angle of the flap at the rear. So that is the, Ferrari Monaco specific rear wing. And Max Verstappen has been saying that, he's not convinced this weekend that it's going to be easy for Red Bull. He actually thinks that there's a good chance that they get beaten this weekend. And, even Helmut Marko said Ferrari are the team to watch. Maybe he just wants to put pressure on Charles Leclerc. But we'll see if that goes anywhere. Bit of drama as well on the Mario Andretti Cadillac side. Christian Horner parroting the standard narrative from the teams that, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So, we've heard this type of stuff before. But this was very interesting, and there's some serious debate here right now, an actual real animosity between Mario Andretti and just Andretti Cadillac as an entry and Formula 1 and the FOM management themselves. So, Mario Andretti told NBC that the owner of Liberty Media, Greg Maffei, who's been doing multiple interviews over the last several months of various things, will do everything in my power, or said that he will do everything in my power to stop Andretti from joining Formula 1. Now, okay, do we believe this was said? Because to me, surely as an American company, there's a lot of upside to having an American team, like a proper American team on the grid. And I don't really see why it feels to be personal. That's what's kind of confusing here, right? Because there's a business reason why Andretti are getting rejected, because they don't want to split the pie from 10 teams to 11 teams. It's effectively a franchise. It is what it is. But, there's a business case. But the fact that it's like, it seems almost personal in some ways, right? How apparently he's saying, I'm definitely going to stop you coming in type thing. And maybe Andretti himself isn't helping the case by talking about this type of stuff. F1 say no comment on the matter. And there are discussions from other sources that, people aren't so convinced that what Andretti said was actually true. There is understood to be skepticism within a selection of the sports stakeholders regarding the validity of Andretti's claims that he did not bring the situation to the attention of Congress. So there's basically a few things going on here. Of course, there's a whole Congress, Senate, House thing happening behind the scenes as well, with some people saying, all right, Liberty, you've got to give us an explanation for why you're going to reject Andretti Cadillac's entry, given that they seem to fit the bill on what might be, required and necessary here. But also there's been skepticism as to whether what Andretti said, what Maffei said, is actually true. So it's an absolute mess, basically. Let's talk about the driver market, though, because Helmut Marko actually said that there were conversations between Alonso and Red Bull, but, as we probably expected, as I mentioned before, a harmonious work environment is very important for Max. I think it would probably not have been the case with Alonso, which is, we talked about this. You're going to bring Alonso in, you're going to create some degree of friction, but at the same time, Marco's here talking about this harmonious work environment when Max works with Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. Like, that's not as far as I'm concerned, and given what's happened there behind the scenes over the last few months, doesn't sound especially harmonious to me. So that is probably why Alonso didn't go there, because they want to keep Max happy. But, I do wonder what the dynamics are there internally, right? Because Horner, wanting to take some full control of the team, possibly wants to reduce the importance that Max has on the team in the same way that Adrian Newey's importance was downplayed over the last few years. Max might not be so happy about that, we shall see. But of course, the way to make Max less comfortable would be to bring in a more competitive second driver, which is probably not going to be the case, because Marko says, look, Checo is still our first option. We want to have clarity on this before the summer break. They may lock in that deal very shortly indeed. Although there were rumours today that, from Lawrence Barretto over at Formula 1, that Red Bull and RB are still believed to rate Ricciardo highly, and he's understood the Australian is very much in their plans for 2025. So, I don't know, Ricciardo hasn't really been performing compared to Tsunoda, but for whatever reason they seem adamantly against ever putting Yuki in the Red Bull. So, I guess the conclusion is that Ricciardo might still have a chance there, somehow, if he turns it around very quickly indeed. But this was the big rumour yesterday on the driver market with regard to Carlos Sainz. We believe that the Red Bull door is probably closing because they're probably going to re-sign Perez. Mercedes have been extremely impressed by Antonelli's test runs in their Formula 1 cars, W13 especially, I believe. They're edging towards an Antonelli, certainly because Mercedes are basically a midfield team now, upper midfield team. There's not so much risk. Like, if you're a championship winner, like if Hamilton was to have won the championship and retire, or, leave to Ferrari for some reason, if Mercedes was still competitive, putting Antonelli in would be a big risk, right? Because, you're throwing him straight into a championship winning car. That isn't what the Mercedes is. So there's probably less risk, right, than you'd usually expect, and that's why I believe they're probably going to do this, to be honest. Now, this means that Sainz has to talk to other options, and Williams has emerged as an actual serious potential contender. So, Motorsport learns that Sainz has engaged in talks with Williams for some time now, and, of course, Alex Albon will stay. Sargent's going to go, 99.9 recurrent percent likely, unless this guy somehow comes in with a mega bag sponsor. He's not going to stay. I mean, he might even go mid-season. That was the rumour recently. There's also, of course, the whole Mercedes 2026 deal, the possibility that, they have a very competitive engine prospect potentially for that particular season, and therefore they can be competitive with Williams, or potentially he can go to Mercedes at some point in the future, depending what the future holds. So in many ways, it's quite fascinating how two of the weaker teams on the grid, theoretically, Haas and Williams, are becoming real players in the driver market right now. Haas are talking to lots of people, they're considering their options. Williams and potentially going to have Sainz and Albon. I mean, that would be quite the pairing, wouldn't it? It makes a lot of sense for Williams. Does it make sense for Sainz? I guess it depends on his feeling on the Audi deal, because the Audi deal is on the table, but the rumour has it, right, and even Chris Medlin reporting this right now, there's no deadline for Sainz at Audi. They're basically like, look, take your time, we'll get you when you're ready type thing. So he's going to have conversations, and apparently Sainz is the top of the shortlist for Williams, which makes sense. And of course, they're going to have conversations that apparently have been ongoing now for some time. Red Bull is still a possibility, but maybe what Sainz will do is just wait until potentially Perez is either confirmed or denied to be staying at Red Bull, and then consider what the next step potentially is, because, Williams or Audi is a difficult question. Audi would be weaker next season with Sauber possibly than Williams. Williams do feel like they're on an upward trajectory, but who has the best chance in 2026? Is it Audi as a works team that's maybe an outside chance, but a possibility, or is it Williams, of course, who may continue to be competitive, but let's be real, are Williams winning the championship in 2026, 7 or 8? It's not going to happen. Maybe in another 10, 15 years they can get back to the top, but it's not going to happen in the next few years. So a very interesting development there. Intrigued to your thoughts, as always, in the comments section. This is Max Verstappen, by the way, talking about how he's not expecting Monaco to be their best track. He talks about the bumps and the curbs being problematic for their car. Obviously, that was kind of the case previously as well. Even last year, they weren't as good as they were elsewhere. But nonetheless, they're probably still expected to be favourites for the weekends. You've got to think, though, Ferrari and there's other teams, McLaren that could be in the mix, not really expecting, again, anyone else to be in the mix because, we'll discuss Mercedes here in a second. Checo Perez also did say they're closing up a lot, the field. We have to make sure that we do the same, i.e. bring upgrades. We got a good upgrade. We haven't got a massive upgrade in the car just yet. So this does imply that there's big upgrades to come. Of course, this is true for other teams as well. Mercedes have made it clear they're bringing upgrades every single round until Silverstone. There will be further big upgrades for Ferrari at Silverstone, probably for McLaren too. So, Red Bull will continue to bring upgrades, as will everybody else, but maybe there's something mega in the works. To be honest though, if there was something mega happening, we probably would have expected to see it at Imola, and they did bring a big upgrade to Imola, we believe. It just, didn't really do all that much. But let's talk about Mercedes, because they have made some progress, right? There's no doubt in Imola, they looked better than they had done before. The problem for Mercedes is they're still half a second off the leading pack. But there's not one car in the leading pack. It's not like Red Bull are half a second down the road, then it's Mercedes, then it's Ferrari, then it's McLaren. It's Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren half a second down the road, and Mercedes further behind. The car is now, though, a bit more consistent. If they can find a way to bring on some more downforce to the car, I think that will be a positive attribute to the team, and it is a car that generates load peaks, let's say, in a different way. The big rumour, though, was around James Allison, right? So, Chief Technical Officer, formerly, well, he was Technical Director, then he was Chief Technical Officer, then at the start of 2023, I think it was during Bahrain testing when Mercedes realised in 2023 with the W14 the car wasn't good enough. James Allison got a phone call from Toto Wolff and said, hey, we need you back, as the new technical director. Mike Elliott goes, who, in hindsight, it's quite interesting, isn't it, that Elliott goes, and arguably the most successful car Mercedes are going to have of this ground effect era is going to be that W13, right, that Elliott was kind of in charge of. But, look, Allison came back in, and it's not like he's turned around the team. I mean, he comes into the outfit, the W15 is not a better car than a W14. So this was the question as to what the future was going to hold here, right? Because Elliott, we believe, was kind of fired, we think. I mean, he kind of got promoted and then he left the team, and it's kind of weird, but you know how it works in these corporations, right? He was probably fired for maintaining the zero pod concept into 2023, sorry. So much for the known blame culture and all this stuff. But apparently Allison effectively tendered his resignation to the team and was rejected by the organisation, right? Because Mercedes are interested in signing Newey, and the belief is that they were interested. Now they're no longer, because they want to build around James Allison and say, look, James, we believe you are the man to build a new technical team around, and we do trust in your abilities. But nonetheless, it's interesting what the Italian press had to say on this about, this Mr. Vino, who is gone as well. So, there's so many people that have left Mercedes. It's so ridiculous, really, how they've maybe not even allowed this to happen. Maybe it's inevitable. You win 8 championships in a row. People are going to leave, obviously, to go to seek new challenges. But the extent of the brain drain at Mercedes has been remarkable to watch, and it still continues. I mean, there's still people leaving the team and going to largely Ferrari, with the likes of Loic Serra. Allison, of course, formerly was at Ferrari and is considered to be, in his own right, a highly proficient engineer, certainly for cars like the W11. But we're in a different era nowadays, it's a ground effect era, and I don't know if Mercedes are wise to no longer pursue Newey. Maybe they realise it ain't going to happen because he's going to go to Ferrari, and that's perfectly possible. And if you lose James Allison, you really are in the mud at that point. There is no doubt that you might as well just leave the sport and just become an engine supplier again to McLaren or whatever, because, it would be awful. And this is, the technical team has been looted. That is the feeling. But that is the belief, right? That James Allison effectively wanted to quit, right? And was like, look, I've not done a good enough job here. I've failed in my kind of attempts to turn the team around. I'm willing to quit. I'm willing to leave. I'm willing to resign. And the team were like, no, look, we want you to stay. And Allison's like, well, okay, sure, I'm not going to maybe turn down the money you're offering, but it also wonders, is his head fully in the game at this point? If he's offered to resign because, maybe he's failed, he doesn't believe that he's got what it takes anymore to, build competitive cars in this ground effect era. We don't know what he's thinking, but, if you're potentially asking to step away and the team says, no, we want to keep you, then I'm not sure that necessarily sends the greatest picture. And, what if next year's car is bad again? Will Allison just decide then to quit and have had enough? I don't know. It's perfectly possible. But then, of course, that would completely screw the team into 2026. So internally at Mercedes, things continue to be very interesting. They're experiencing many staff losses, obviously, departures continue. James Allison considered resigning, but his resignation was rejected by the team. They, of course, believe that it's crucial for the future. Serra and D'Ambrosio are gone to Ferrari, of course, and look, they're undergoing a big renewal phase. They believe that James Allison is key to making that happen, but actually, we have heard today Simone Resta being linked in, of course, former Ferrari man, then Haas man, and he was at Haas for quite some time, joining Mercedes. So, I think this has been rumoured maybe for some time now, but, they're trying to bolster their competitive staffing here at Mercedes. Whether it's going to work is another question. Enrico Sampo's been brought in as head of performance software applications to try and improve the simulation. So they are hiring some people, but they're not hiring as many people as they are losing right now, frankly, Mercedes, and they are not pursuing Newey because due to his preference for a consultant role without regular factory presence, apparently. So if Newey was to join, he would, they would want him there all the time because they need, him to work on the car all the time. Whereas some other teams that are maybe more competent than Mercedes right now, such as Ferrari, can have Newey be, a consultant somewhat working more remotely than maybe Mercedes would desire. So, yeah, Toto Wolff wants to turn around and build a new technical team. Whether that's with or without James Allison is a question, but they want to keep him. The question is whether, things continue to go in a bad direction and, the car, it's another false dawn. Like, this could be another false dawn. There have been many for Mercedes over the last couple of years when they believe the car is fixed or better, and then it doesn't really turn out to be the case. They've said it again after Imola. They're like, no, look, we've got a solid platform now. And, well, we'll see if that continues or not. If anything is true over the last couple of years, it's probably not, and therefore James Allison might consider handing in the 2 weeks. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comment section below. We do, however, have more upgrades to Mercedes. So if it's true that their upgrades are coming and they're going to work, then maybe time will tell. Mercedes do have a new front wing concept for Monaco specifically. I guess we'll see whether this is kind of retained for other Grand Prix tracks as well. But yeah, new front wing, because the belief is that innovative, aggressive front wing design was actually causing them problems, Mercedes, from the start of the season. So they look to be exploring other alternatives with a more traditional approach here, actually, with the top flap. Now, of course, this is Monaco, so you're trying to maximize the downforce, but it is something interesting at the very least to note. There's also this, speaking of Monaco, we've seen some controversial incidents, shall we say, at Monaco. 2006, was it? 2014 especially, and 2022, I believe. Of course, obviously 2022, with the Checo Perez case. Schumacher, Rosberg, Perez crashing or, going into a runoff area deliberately to cause yellow and red flags to screw up the laps of those behind you. There's a compelling case that happened with Sergio Perez back in 2022, and Sainz says, we have spotted people on purpose generating red flags. The question is, what do you do about it? There is a kind of feeling that what the FIA are being pushed to do is delete the laps effectively, and I'm kind of surprised that they haven't done this yet. It's a pretty common feature in other motorsport. Like, if you cause a red or a yellow flag, you will lose your fastest lap time or even potentially your fastest 2 lap times as a result. And maybe there's something to be said for that here in Formula 1 as well. But, by this point in the season, I thought they might have come up with this idea already. Does not seem like that is the case, however. But very much interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.